Let's go through the AFL team pass marks for next season. So this is kind of where we think every single team should be at. I know it's very early on, but I thought it'd be a bit of fun today to kind of maybe make a very early predictions on what we think where teams should be finishing by, this time next year, I guess. Well, I guess a little bit later than that, but a little bit earlier than that. But nonetheless, I thought what we would do is, instead of going by alphabetical order, I thought it'd be fun if we did it by ladder position, starting from the worst team of 2024 and going to, on the AFL ladder, the best. So starting with Richmond, ending with Brisbane. I think we'd probably be fair. So as we'll start off with Richmond. Obviously had a pretty hard season last year with a lot of injuries. And of course, the off-season wasn't the greatest. They lost a lot of players. But going into the draft, they look like they're going to be filling up with a lot of players. Obviously, the main talking point, though, for Richmond is the fact that it's really for the future, not for the now. For me personally, I've got Richmond not really on much of position, more on just improving. I think they only got 2 wins last season. I think with all the losses that they had on the team front, losing Rioli, Baker, Bolton, etc., I think the best case scenario for Richmond and a pass mark for me would probably be equal that. I mean, I feel like they're going to finish wooden spoon no matter what. If they didn't, I think that would be, I wouldn't say it's a miracle, but I think it would be a pretty fair feat for them. For me personally, if they can get 2 wins and equal what they did last year, considering that, I mean, the fact that they've lost all of that, I mean, they can't do much worse. So for me, I've got them with 2 wins for the season. What are you thinking for Richmond?
I'm pretty much thinking the same. 2 or 3 wins is... You can't give them anything more than that. You can't see them winning more than 3 games, I wouldn't think. And the only hope for them is that they do have Tom Lynch in their forward line.
Yeah, for 20 games next season.
They need to keep him on the field.
Hope the kids come through and just have a couple of good games, I guess. Play a little bit inspirational footy.
They need to do what West Coast did and win those few games off spirit and youth.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best case scenario for them. I think it's going to be a pretty tough year for Richmond. Next up, of course, is North Melbourne. So North Melbourne is such an interesting case. They've been down in the bottom 4 for so long now. Everyone's been wondering or been thinking they have to start to improve, or else Alistair Clarkson hasn't done a lot with them. I think a pass mark for North Melbourne has to be to finish outside the bottom 4 at the very least. I think they have to do something there. I mean, they've only won, they've won only less than 10 games in the past 5 years. Something ridiculous like that. It's probably a little bit better than that. But the fact that some teams have improved so well, like Hawthorn have gone down and up in the space of, 24 months, not having to rely on the draft and all that sort of stuff, and North Melbourne have had a lot of handouts given their way, they have to at least finish outside the bottom 4 and show some improvement, get some more wins on the board. I think they have to at least double the amount of wins and finish outside the bottom 4.
Yeah, I think they just need to avoid the bottom 4. I think that's their pass mark, because they haven't been able to, they've always been in the bottom 4 for the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
The fact is that they're bringing in Jack Darling. I think they'll help Nick Larkey.
I actually like all the recruits that they've picked up. Even I know at first when I heard Jack Darling, I thought, what are they doing? But looking at it now, I think it's probably a decent idea. Yeah. I feel like at West Coast, the one thing that West Coast didn't really have an issue with was key forwards. Yeah. So when Oscar Allen was there and now Jake Waterman this year, Jack Darling has been pushed down the pecking order. But they have to finish outside the bottom 4. If they finish in the bottom 4 again, it's just... When are we going to see a rise? When do you start to put a blowtorch on a team that's been on the bottom for so long? I think it's a pretty fair point to make. Next up is the West Coast Eagles. Interesting look at it. Obviously, a team that's been on the bottom for the last couple of years. They still really haven't bottomed out, it feels like. It feels like a lot of the reason why West Coast haven't bottomed out is because they haven't looked to the draft. They're still trying to recruit for experienced players and try to somehow beat a massive rebuild. Is it going to happen this year? Are they going to bottom out all the way? I don't know. For me personally, I think if West Coast are going to continue to recruit the way they are and not bottom out, or not go for the draft, they could trade away their pick, 3, for essentially Matt Owies. I mean, yes, they picked up pick 13, but, they had to hold on to that pick, I believe. I think they have to at least finish outside the bottom 4. I think that's a pass mark for West Coast Eagles, because if they were going to be going down the Richmond route, I would at least say, look, you can do whatever you can go to the bottom, and it's not a massive deal, because we know in the next 3 or 4 years you will eventually go up. But if West Coast are going to continue to push forward, that's your plan, that's fine, but you have to actually be showing improvement, because they've been down the bottom for quite a while now, and there's been no real push up. So, they picked up Baker, they picked up Owies, they got rid of a little bit of experience with Darling and Gaff. But, there has to be some improvement on the ladder. There has to be improvement with some wins. So I'm saying outside the bottom 4. What are you thinking?
I think they could look at the way that they've recruited. Like you've said, they want to go for. They think they can avoid it with keeping the other experienced players that have been injured previously on the field. I think they can look at the pass mark of 6 to 8 wins. That's where they should be at landing.
Yeah.
I think that with Harley Reid coming in his second year, having that the big guy in Oscar Allen, that vocal point, will definitely help if they can stay on the field. I think they can finish between. Their pass mark is to avoid the bottom 4. They can finish as high as 10 to 14 if they.
I think it's a pretty big call. I don't think many people would be having West Coast that high.
No, but I think that if McWalter can come in and have the experience of the players he's getting in from Richmond that have come with him, I think that could help him go up the ladder.
Now to a team that a lot of people are expecting to be the big risers, the Adelaide Crows. So they're expected to be the high flyers of 2024 after just missing out finals the year before that. Very controversial way they missed the finals. Obviously, it hit the post as a Swan supporter. Ben Keys needs to get over it.
I think all the Crows fans need to get over it.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it's about time. To be honest, I feel like that's not the reason why you missed finals this year, so I think you can kind of move on from it, even though it was a shit call. I think they will rise this year. They'll have an easier draw, but on the pass mark, I think they have to make finals. Matthew Nicks, his job's on the line this year. You can obviously give them a little bit of a mulligan this year because they did miss some players throughout a little bit of a period of the season, and there was a lot more expectations, which a younger side, they didn't handle it. That's a pretty fair point to make. But I think now they have to make finals. If the Crows don't make the finals, Matthew Nicks will be looking for a new job. I still think, though, they have to make finals.
I think they will have. They definitely have to make finals. I think the hole in their list is it's just not experienced enough. With the fact is that it's either Crouch, Dawson, Laird. They need that Saligo type. They need the.
Yeah, he showed some improvement, but there were times when he had a good patch, but he didn't have a full good season.
To be honest, after the bye, he had a couple good games, and then he just petered off at the end when they needed the lift from him.
Yeah,
and maybe a preseason will help him do that. I don't think they desperately need a big defender.
Next up, we get to Melbourne, a team that dropped off considerably that no one really saw coming except for you. I feel like a lot of people saw Melbourne drop off was coming, but obviously no one really thought
it coming from a mile away.
Yeah, but you didn't even have them fallen down this far.
No, and I didn't think that losing. I thought most of it was going to be the Oliver thing. Yeah. And then Petrarca injures himself on Queen's birthday.
I don't think he injured himself.
Well, he got injured, and then it just went. Then that's when it all went down.
Yeah, you got that, and then you got players maybe wanting to leave, like Pickett and Viney, and it was
the Joel Smith
situation. So there was a lot going on for Melbourne. They finished 14th in the end. Those players should be back. Well, except for Joel Smith, he's gone. But the other players should be good to go. I still think though that Melbourne didn't really move much. The needle didn't move much for me. I feel like that there was another year onto all those midfielders. I don't think that, like even last year, I didn't think their defence would get them through much. I thought they would finish in the top 8, but only just get in there because of their defence. And now that there's another year onto all those midfielders, they didn't really recruit much on their side, like massive game breakers. Like I'm not thinking Harry Sharp's going to be a massive recruit for them.
Well, they put all their money in Wade Dirksen
Yeah, a player that I've never, like, no offense to the guy, he may be a very good option, but like they're talking like this guy's going to be the next fucking, I wouldn't say Tony Lockett, but they're talking about this guy like he's going to be a massive deal. Like you're a pretty big Victorian club. Now I get that they've obviously had a very poor couple 18 months really, like on the outside looking in. So that's obviously why Dan Houston didn't really want to go there in the end. But surely you could have picked up someone like, look at even delisted free agents like Matt Taberner or someone like that.
Yeah.
Like you're putting on a big like deal on Wade Dirksen, who hasn't even played an AFL game. You haven't done much anywhere else. I'm thinking a pass mark for Melbourne, and I know this may sound a bit like you're not going hard enough on them. For me personally, I think a pass mark for Melbourne is to finish above the bottom 4. I think they could keep on going down, to be honest. I don't think their forward line is going to kick enough goals. There's already tension. Like I don't know how much tension's been cleared over with Petrarca and Oliver and stuff. What are you thinking?
I think that's more of a prediction than a pass. I think a pass mark, they should be finishing in the top 10. They should be finishing in the top 10 with that list.
But why would you say that? Like, I mean, I look at their list. I think that who are they kicking goals? Like Bailey Fritsch.
Besides, they have a bloody good midfield. Petrarca, Gawn, Viney, Oliver. That's an A grade midfield at their best. That's what they have to
2 years ago.
Yes, but when we're talking about pass marks, we're not talking about predictions.
No, I'm not predicting it. I'm saying that their pass mark is because all of them are, like Petrarca's getting up there now. Well, not Petrarca, but they're all getting a bit older. They're all on big contracts as well. Yes, on their best day, they're one of the best midfielders in the comp. But also, they're very one line. They're very one pace as well. Yeah. I think the competition now has evolved into having a more pacey 1-2 punch in the forward line, like midfield. Like you think of Brisbane, for example, Lockie Neal, Dunkley, then you've got McCluggage, who's a bit of a runner. Then they chuck through Rayner, who's got that burst. That's just me. I get what you're saying. But
then you've got to look at some of their recruits that they did grab. They did grab Harry Sharp. They've got Caleb Windsor. They've got Trent Rivers is coming through as well. They've got some of the depth that he can come through. They've got Christian Salem, who was trialed pre-season and then he got injured during into the midfield. They've got some other players in their defence that did show signs. They do have the list to the midfield and the backs. The forward line, yes, that's always going to be the question mark because they've got Bailey Fritsch and Cozzy Pickett. And I think they'll try and trial him in the midfield as well this year as an X factor.
Yeah.
But I think that list should be top 10. Okay. That's what they should be getting to. And if they don't, the scrutiny on Goodwin will be huge.
Gone. I think it'll be gone if they don't make it.
I think that's their pass mark. They need to try and get back into finals. And the top 10 is that pass mark.
All right, well, yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. I still think the finishing above the bottom four is a pass for me. I don't expect a lot from them. Anyway, moving on to the Gold Coast Suns. I feel like this is a pretty obvious one. They have to make finals.
It's the same thing every year. They have to make finals.
Yeah.
I think this list can do it, and I think
they should have done it this year.
Yeah.
Or last season.
I think the one problem with them is that they got Elliot Himmelberg. They've got Ben King. I just want to see how they're going to structure their forward line. I think if Elliot Himmelberg...
I think with the loss of Jack Lukosius, who obviously was holding up a spot there the whole year, I think that's actually a really good pickup because he can play as a second
it's a very underrated pickup. I think, to be honest, this might be a big call. If he can get into that side, he can be a top 5 recruit next year. I really think he can be a top 5 recruit.
Yeah, I think he's shown like glimpses of greatness, but he's never really had that consistency to play 20 games of AFL.
And the thing is, because he was at the Crows, he was 4th, 5th, 6th in line. Yeah. In that forward line, I think in this team, I think he can have that Casbolt year that Casbolt had at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen Mabior Chol and Casbolt like up at the Gold Coast. The conditions, most games are usually pretty good. So for key forwards, it's usually okay. Like around that period, it's usually not too humid, and you obviously get that one game a year where it's just an absolute write-off. Like the conditions are fucking terrible, but. You know, the Gold Coast proved... I mean, Gold Coast should have made the finals this season because, you know, they won nearly every single home game.
Yeah.
And if you bank, like, half your away games, they could have almost made the bloody top 4. Yeah. Like, they won, I think, 9 of their 11 home games, and then all they had to do was win, 5 away from home, and they would have won 14 wins, nearly make the top 4.
Yeah.
So, but they have to do it. If they don't do it, write them off as a football club.
Yeah, I don't think that if Damien Hardwick can't do it with this list... I really don't see how they're going to do it.
Yeah,
and
because they've got one of the best midfielders, combinations in the comp. I feel like Jared Witts, I think, is a very underrated ruckman. Matt Rao needs to find some junk. I think a bit of junk possession because he does so much for himself. He's going to fucking be a cripple by 35. Yeah. But he's such a great. I would love him at any club. Like if you, I think every single player, every single team would love a Matt Rao because he's just going to get every bit of grunt work for you.
Yeah.
But then they've got others like Anderson, Flanders, who went through there at times. You know, I think they've got a great list of midfielders in the comp. And I think they've got every single. The spine is one of the best in the comp. They just need to find a couple of role players, and I think they've got the list there to make finals. They should have a good draw because they finished 13th.
Yeah,
I mean it can't be much easier than it was last season. I mean far out. So if they don't make it this year, then I'll be giving them an F. If they don't, even if they finish 9th on percentage, they need to make finals. After that, we get to finishing 12th in the AFL season 2024 with St Kilda. Interesting, because everyone kind of saw they were going to drop off in 2024 from making finals in 23.
Because no one expected them to.
Yeah, no one expected them to do that. So, for a pass mark for me, I don't think they've got a finals list. I think for me, personally, I think 9th to 13th. Finishing in a similar spot. They pick up some good recruits. I think if Max King can have a good year, like a full year, I think this is probably another one like Richmond. I'm not really going to put a pass mark on St Kilda on a position really, like 9 to 13. Yeah, if they finish around there. My point is they need to find a way to find a goal when Max King, because Max King, he's like people saying they should get rid of him. I don't know about that. Don't get rid of him. You can't find a key forward. You can't grow him on trees. No. He can kick you 50 plus goals in a season. You can't just grow them. So find a way that if you, like when he was out of the team, they were obviously a lot more potent because they had more options. There's got to be a way that's similar to what Sydney did when Buddy Franklin first got there. They obviously were using him way too much and it messed up. Then they finally, I think it was around the COVID era, just after that, they started going to other options.
Because he got injured.
That's when
his injury started.
Yeah, but Sydney finally, when he got back into the team in 21, they realised that that's the way to do it. And they went, finished 6th on the ladder. They overachieved and then, made the grand final the year after because they looked a lot more potent.
Yeah.
This is where they have to do here. Now, I'm not comparing Max King to Buddy Franklin, but on the side of he does take a lot of he's the funnel for the forward line to go to. So they need to find another way to get to him and get goals because they showed at the end of the year that they were like a Titan defeaters. They beat Sydney. They beat Geelong as well. I'm pretty sure they took Port Adelaide to this. They almost put Port Adelaide away. They had a couple of bad games, but they were a team that was beating a lot of the top sides. They were teams that were ruining finals hopes for a lot of teams. And obviously Carlton right at the end, they nearly knocked them out.
Yeah,
they should have. But the Fremantle.
That was a number. Yeah.
So I think 9 to 13. I don't think they need to make finals. They don't have the list for finals. No. I don't think. They just need to find an attacking way to go, and I think their defense will hold up nicely. I think they showed some signs. And I think they just have to pick up well in the draft. I think, but
they need to do something that they do is get a good first round pick.
Yeah. Well, they've got 2 at the moment, so we'll see what they do. But yeah, I'm thinking 9 to 13. What do you think about the Saints?
I'd say I think avoid the bottom 4. I'd say just avoid the bottom 4. I think it's Max King, and they've got to find other avenues. The fact is that also they delisted Tim Membry and Jack Hayes. They wanted. And
they're relying. I think that proves that they're relying on Cooper Sharma.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that Cooper Sharma needs to take that next level because he definitely showed signs late in the year.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing. They got to get another avenue in that midfield. I think that another preseason of Sinclair. They just got to chuck him in there. They don't need to stuff around now. They need to They can't do that.
After that, we get to Essendon. Well, I mean. Your point would be they have to win a final, but
can we just get it over with?
I mean, I guess that's the point, isn't it? They have to win a final, but they didn't do much in the this is the one off season they didn't do a lot in the trade period or that free agency period. They didn't change a lot.
I think they've decided to go to the draft. It looks like they've got that academy player in Kako.
He looks like he'd be decent. And small forward.
And the way he's talking about how he wants to bring the excitement to Essendon. To be honest, I feel like they haven't had that in 10 years. Yeah. They haven't had that kid that wants to jump into it and give the excitement to that forward line because that forward line just hasn't had excitement or spark.
Yeah, I think 9 to 13. I don't think I don't think that's a pass mark, to be honest.
No.
I mean, if they can get that, I think it's overachieving. Let's just put it that way. I don't think they have the list to be playing in finals. Let's just put it that way. Fremantle. The almighty chokers of finals, losing their last 4 games in 2024. They were in the top 4. They beat the Sydney Swans, who only had 1 loss to that point. And everyone thought this is a team that could potentially be like a Smoky for the premiership. They had a great defence. Their midfield was stacked. And finally they found a forward line that could kick some goals. But they dropped off right at the end.
It didn't help that they lost their best forward.
Yeah, Josh Tracy, what a season he had. He plays 20 games this... Well, he needs to play 22 now, let's be honest.
Yeah,
sorry, or 23.
He needs to get... For them to guarantee finals, he needs to play every game.
Yeah. So, pass mark for me for Fremantle is... It may seem a bit lofty, I think, for Fremantle, but I think they have to make a prelim final, which means I think that they need to make top 4 and make a prelim at the very least. I think that I know they missed the finals, but they were a team, every single year we usually see a team that missed the finals that then make the top 4 the next season. Looking at Geelong, obviously, was last. I think Fremantle are a team to do it. I think they will. I think that they have enough. They made the finals in 2022, which is kind of an overachievement. They dropped off in 2021 they made finals. 22 they dropped off. 23 they just missed out. With one of the best midfields in the comp, Hayden Young brings such a unique aspect to their midfield now. Sean, I am so 50-50 on the 2 ruckman. I don't know. It just seems that sometimes it will work, sometimes it doesn't. I don't think that's a real issue here on if they make top 4 or not. Shea Bolton brings them something that they haven't had in a very long time. I feel like Michael Walters 2013, 2014, 2015. He brings something so unique to them that I think that they have to finish top 4 and, potentially a prelim. If they miss finals like they did this year, Justin Longmuir loses his job.
Yeah.
But they have shown a couple of years ago that they can make finals. They won a final in 2022. I think a prelim is a pass mark for them.
I say top 6. I think they need a home elimination final as a pass mark. I think they need to figure it out with Jackson and Darcy. I think they just need to do it. I think it was really stupid to sign both of them long term.
Yeah,
so I think top 6 is what they need. They just need to get a home final, and get to the second week of finals. I think semi-finals their pass mark.
Okay. Next up, we get to Collingwood. Well, obviously, premiers in 2023. Everyone thought that they could go again. A lot of injuries earlier in the year. They were picking up a lot of players that weren't really expected to be in their 22, middle period. And eventually just fell all the way down and finished in 9th spot, just missing finals by percentage. By percentage on Carlton. So in saying that, I think that the pass mark for Collingwood, and the only reason why I say this is because of how they recruited and how they didn't they didn't push anyone on. A lot of players over 30. I think that at this point, they have to win the premiership. I know that's a massive call and it may be too much. I think they have to win the premiership because if they don't, their cliff is... if you win the premiership, like with Richmond, that's why I wasn't so harsh on them, because they won 3 premierships. If Collingwood win 2 premierships in 3 years and then fall off, you got 2 premierships.
Fans won't give a fuck.
I won't give a fuck. I'll be like, for fuck's sake, they won 2. They have to. I think because side bottom, Pendlebury, I know it feels like that they are going on forever, but they can't go on forever. And right now, there's not a lot on the underbelly of their team, like younger players. Like Dacos, obviously, massive, great player, potential. Well, you'd think he'd win a Brownlow eventually. But other than that, there's not a lot of young players under there. And they keep on trading away their future first-rounders and their first-round picks. They picked up Dan Houston purely to help out with, 2-time All-Australian. They want to try and go for a premiership. Yeah. And I think that's their pass mark. They have to win it. At the very least, a grand final, but they have to win it. And, they'll get an easier draw as well because they're in 9th and they're Collingwood. So I think, premiership. I know some people will say, they missed the finals. I think there's a bit of turnover in that top 8 from last year. So I think that they have to win.
I'll say grand final, to be honest. I really do. I think that you're on the money. I think the amount of injuries they had to start off the season, they were playing catch up to start off with. Jordan De Goey being injured for 90%, it felt like 90% of the season.
Yeah, even when he was in the team, it just felt like
he just didn't feel like he was there. He was never his best all season.
Yeah.
Their forward line that was just crippled with injuries. They didn't have a target.
Yeah.
And their defense, I think they need to have that defender so Darcy Moore can play the play.
The third player,
he just... I think that will help. I think that will help them, and that they should be able to get to grand final day next year.
I think the recruitment of obviously him, but I didn't even mention Tim Membry as well. I think that's a massive.
I think that one. Lockie Schultz having another preseason because everyone was shocked that he left last year to go to Collingwood.
Yeah,
I think having him a full preseason, having Tim Membry there the full preseason, you'd hope
with Myercheck, Elliott, Bobby Hill, that's a forward line you can build around. Just even
they
listening.
If they're not there prelim night, it's a failed season. Yeah. It is a failed season if they're not there prelim night.